Okay, so let's get back into this. We're going to do the second half now, and we're going to read through the second part. So, this side, and let's get started. Regions, okay. Regions in the Northern Hemisphere, its use declined in favor of much finer accuracy of GPS after it became available for civil use in 1995, but the U.S. Coast Guard continued working on an improved system using the existing infrastructure it adopted in-chain LoRaWAN or eLoRaWAN could provide. Positioning accuracy compared to GPS broadcasts at hundreds of thousands of watts, the signal is virtually unjammable. And unlike GPS, so we can probably circle that because we know that they're about to say a difference between the two, can even be received indoor, underwater, in an urban natural canyon. So we see that this is kind of almost better than the GPS. So now we must ask ourselves, why is this not in position? Okay, we don't want to do too much analyzing. All the answers that are here, all the questions have answers, and the answers are in the passage. So you don't have to do too much analyzing. But like I said, we're going to do some active reading. Okay, so underwater and in urban or natural canyons, it also turns out that eLoRaWAN can provide a UTC time signal with microsecond times resolution across a large geographical area. Okay, so we're going to stop there. We're going to think about what the passage has said so far, and all it has really talked about is how LoRaWAN is a better thing, better than a GPS at least. Okay, so let's continue. The technology is available. The Coast Guard demonstrated a working prototype last year. So why isn't America using it? Okay, so here we have another question. We might want to look at these questions. These questions are significant because these questions themselves are significant, or the answer that comes after it is going to be significant. So we're going to highlight, well, you can't highlight, but we're going to circle it, underline it, whatever you got to do to realize that that's significant. Okay, so John Gormindi. Okay, so we're just going to keep a note of his name. May not be important, may be important, we don't know yet. A California congressman asked the question at a July 2015 congressional hearing on the Federal Radio Navigation Plan. Okay, so we can just look at Federal Radio Navigation Plan because that might be important. The nation's primary planning document for position, navigation, and timing, PNT. There are two kinds of time, he opened: real time and the federal time, which seem to be forever time. Okay, so that seems like it might be important. There's two kinds of time. Take a quick note there. All right, and here we are, federal time, not yet done. Why is the sense of urgency among decision makers so out of sync? Could some of it be similar to why people delay backing up their computer even though they've been telling themselves to for weeks? How do we decide when presented a risk with unknown odds when it is time to sacrifice time and resources to prevent it? Now, it is critically important time to answer that question, as the world has actually been given odds on another, even more catastrophic risk than GPS failure: destruction of the electrical power infrastructure itself. On July 23rd, 2012, a billion-ton cloud of electrified gases blasted off the far side of the sun at over 6 million. So there's already a scare, so we're going to take note of that. 6 million miles per hour. According to Professor Danielle Baker at University of Colorado, this coronal mass ejection, CME, was in all respects at least as strong as the 1859 Clarington event, referring to the strongest solar storm ever recorded, which set fire to the telegraph station and caused errors down to Cuba, as was widely reported 2 years ago. If the 2012 CME had occurred 1 week later, it would have hit Earth. Okay, so we're done with that passage. So right here, sorry I didn't get to scroll up so you can see that, but you can see it throughout the video, and pause it and read it. I'm going to give you one highlight so you can read it again if you have to. All right, so let's continue. So we're going to take some more notes on the second half. So of course you would do this right on your paper or wherever you're planning on taking notes. If you use Khan Academy study, you would highlight it or whatever the case may be. So you can use that, but today we're just going to see what is important. So we know that Laurent system that the Laurent system seems better. So they might ask us question like, why hasn't the government put it in place? So we don't really need to predict the questions, but we have to have an idea in our head, like, okay, what am I really going to be looking for without without actually reading the question? Because a lot of students, they just read for the answer, but they don't understand the passage as a whole. So Laurent, and then we're gonna say it is better than the GPS. Quick summary. And then we're gonna probably ask why aren't they using it? They using it, and as in the government. We also might look for we might write down that name. Like I said, always keep a note of the names in here because 9 times out of 10 you're gonna have to probably refer back to that name because they don't add them in there for show. They add them in there with a purpose. Okay, so kind of just be aware of that. So let's go down to the questions. We are at 16, okay, through 21. So here I'll put them 17, 18, 19, 20, 21, and the last 3 are graph questions. So that really means that there's only 3 more that are directly based off the passage. But we also want to remember that we didn't answer the first question. We didn't answer the first question. We didn't answer 11. So we can enter that and put 11 up here because we didn't answer that, and we can take the 16 off because it's on the second half. So let's get into it. 16. As used in line 34, bulk most nearly means, so we can go to 34 and we can look and we can say the bulk of more promising comprehensive, and we can go back and we can see that these answer choices don't make sense. The dimension, no, that doesn't quite fit the context of what we're talking about. The mass, once again, does not fit the context. Majority is really looking like the best context, and we can go back and see if you need more explanation that in line 34, the bulk of more promising comprehensive backup already exists. So majority is what's going to fit right there. Okay, that one's a bit more self-explanatory. We also want to make sure we're not really getting some of these vocabulary questions wrong. They're usually the easiest ones on the test, so try to really be attentive as you read. So here's the one where we're going to look at them as a whole that I was talking about earlier if you watched the other videos. So according to John Garamendi, so we took notes on this person up here. We didn't take detailed notes, but we did highlight them in the passage. So according to John Garamendi, the reason America isn't using the E-Laurent system, even though the technology is available. So then I say that they're probably going to ask a question that resembles that. Why aren't they using this? Isn't it important for them to be using this if it's a better option? Well, here it is. Here's the beautiful question at its finest. So let's go and look for it. So we can read the system doesn't use real time. I don't really think that's quite the issue, that the system doesn't use real time. It didn't really go into depth about that. Okay, but what it did say in the passage, it said there's federal time and then there's real time. So this one is looking interesting. And government approval takes longer than the development of the technology. So there's federal time and there's real time. So we can keep B in our back pocket. Federal decision makers are scared to change systems. I don't know if they're necessarily scared. In fact, they're asking questions, so it doesn't seem like they're necessarily scared. Okay. Solar storms threaten the system. No, 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 no. That is not in relation to anything. That only was used as an example that there was a scare at one point. So the fact that we need to change or have a backup plan for these GPSs are very important. So that's all that's talking about. So it's looking like B is the best answer, but we're not going to answer that one yet. We're going to go here and we're going to see, like, they're connected, obviously. So like I told you, I always start with B, okay? Always start with B. I don't know why I do it, but B is the lucky letter for these questions, and I always start with them. So go to 64 to 65. Okay, time. The Elon system was identified as a backup 15 years ago. And here we are. Federal time, not yet done. Federal time. So federal time is the law. So what does that mean? That means that this makes sense. Government approval takes longer than the development of technology, because it says the technology was developed 15 years ago. Okay, so this makes sense. We don't even really have to look at anything because that proves it. The technology was developed 15 years ago, but now here on federal time, it still hasn't been passed or hasn't been allowed. So we know that 17 is a B and 18 is B. And after every video series, we have questions. I have a question box, so if you want to ask some questions, you're free to do that. So let's do these graph questions. We can see, according to the figure, which group is closest in percentage to the percentage of users in 18 through 29 in May 2011 who got location-based information on their smartphone. So we can go back to the graph and we can see this, and we can read the question. Actually, I'll read the question to you from my book one more time. According to figure 1, so this is figure 1, which group is closest in percentage to the percentage of users 18 through 29? Okay, so 18 through 29 in May 2011. Okay, May 2011, 18 to 29. Who is closest to the percentage of users? Okay, who is closest? So it's looking like the 50 plus community. Okay, and what is this? 50 plus on February 12th could be closest to 18 through 29 on May 11th. So it's very possible that this answer is A, okay, because of how it looks on the graph and the similarities between the two, okay? So we can look at that. We can actually, I'm going to check that in the book, making sure that I'm giving you all the best information possible. So let's see. Yeah, this makes sense that they're similar in space. Okay, wonderful. Okay, so the rest of these, you're just gonna look at the graph, and I'm going to leave 20 and 21 for you to do. It will be in the questionnaire. You're gonna look at I want you to look at this, read the questions, and then you're gonna go back up and you're going to look at the graph. Oh, here we are. We're going to look at the graph. And actually, I'm going to do this with you so that I can explain them. But I'm going to try to write two practice problems in doc for you to see exactly what we're looking at. So, let's continue. All right, 20. Which statement is supported by figure 2? Figure 2. So we can go to figure 2, and I'm going to read the statements. This is figure 2. Less than a third of North American GPS revenue comes from automotive